Video 1 Roles and Responsibilities, Chapter 2.
Question 1. Why is ignorance of the law not a defense for breaking the law? Ignorance of law means a mistake of law in relation to a person's right or responsibilities. English juror John Selden is quoted as reflecting in a 1689 book on his sayings called Table Talk, in which he said, "Ignorance of the law excuses no man, not that all men know the law, but because it is an excuse every man will plead, and no man can tell how to refute him."
A general rule for mistake of fact can be a defense to a crime, but mistake of law cannot. However, the difference between the two isn't always clear, and there are a lot of exceptions to the general rule that vary by province.
Now we will be talking about what the definition of mistake of law and mistake of fact are. Mistake of fact generally refers to a person's misunderstanding as to the fact of a situation. The factual misunderstanding results in the person breaking the law. Now we will talk about what the mistake of law means. Mistake of law, on the other hand, is where a person commits an illegal act but tries to escape responsibility by claiming ignorance of the law. In other words, the person knowingly does something but doesn't know it's illegal. Let me give you a quick example comparing what mistake of fact is versus what mistake of law is. A good example for mistake of fact would be, let's say, at Johnny's party on a Saturday night, Johnny had an end of a summer party. The invitation he had sent out said, "When you get here, don't bother to knock. Just open the door and walk through the backyard, where we will be barbecuing." But on the invitation, John mistakenly put down the address as 13 Cypress Street, when his actual address is 113 Cypress Street. James, who had never been to Johnny's house, decided to attend the party. When he arrived, he marched up to 13th Cypress. He opened the front door and started towards the backyard. To his surprise, not only was no one at home, but an alarm started going off. Within minutes, the police arrived and arrested James for trespassing. James will likely have a mistake of fact defense to the charge because he trespassed based on his mistaken but reasonable belief that 13 Cypress Street was Johnny's home. RIP. That was a good example of mistake of fact. Next, we will give an example for mistake of law. An example of mistake of law could simply be as if you believe that you don't have to come to a complete stop at a stop sign when there are no other cars at the intersection. You have made a mistake of law. In this example, whether there are cars or not, you must come to a complete stop. In almost every case, you will not be able to argue that you didn't know or misunderstood the law. That is, it won't be a defense. Now that I've given you some information about the question, let's answer it now. Ignorance of the law really means that people can't defend their actions by claiming they didn't know the law. In other words, it would be too easy for people to break a contract, ignore a neighbor's right or privacy, if they could get away with it by arguing they didn't know it was against the law. Finally, let's move on to question 2. What responsibilities do individuals have to know the law of the land? First, let's start off with what land of the law means. Law of the land refers to law that deals with the rights to use, alienate, or exclude others from land. In many countries, these kinds of property are referred to as real estate or real property. The law socially enforces groups of individuals' rights to own land. It also addresses the legal authority set by a country in regards to land ownership and social acceptance of land ownership. All of us should be happy about this law. This law helps us be able to have somewhere to live and not have people randomly walking on your property and wrecking everything and not getting in trouble. Knowing what the law of the land even is will help you know your rights, your boundaries, and the regulations and laws that govern us. This is why even though land laws has its roots deep in ancient times of old, it is still a huge importance in today's ever-expanding modern world. Now it's time for a fun fact. Did you know this law not only protects us against intrusions onto the surface of land, but also against those above and below it? It can protect you up to a depth of around 2,800 feet underneath the ground. Now I'll give you a better definition of what law of land means. Another term for law of land could be the collection of traditions, customs, usages, and laws of a country that apply to everyone, including the government, under the jurisdiction of its courts. It can also refer to the legal system. Hopefully now you know the definition of law of land and why it is very important to us. Question 3. What can you do if you witness a law being broken? We will also talk about what Crime Stoppers are and what citizen's arrest is. Minor crimes happen all around us all the time, like jaywalking, failing to stop at stop signs. Chances are you won't even think twice about ignoring these infractions, but what if you witness a serious crime involving loss of property or harm to others? Witnessing a crime can be a frightening experience, but it can also be a chance to do the right thing. Here's what you should do if you witness a crime. If someone's health or safety is in danger, you should absolutely call 911. At this point, you shouldn't be worried about solving a crime or testifying. You should be concerned about whether someone is in physical danger or needs medical attention. For the most part, civilians are not required to report a crime if they see one. However, there are certain crimes that impose a mandatory reporting requirement on certain people. For instance, if school staff, medical personnel, and even parents witness child abuse or neglect and fail to report it, they could be liable. And if you witness people planning a crime or know a crime is going to happen and don't report it, you could be charged with conspiracy, although these charges are more rare. Reporting a crime in which no one was injured can be a trickier question. You should know, though, that you can report a crime anonymously. At the same time, if you do not report the crime and provide your personal information, you may be asked to come to court to testify at trial. You should face fines or jail time if you refuse to testify. The police may ask you to give a witness statement. This is a written or recorded account of what you saw. If the police catch the offender, your witness statement may be used as evidence in court, although you may be asked to appear in court to give your evidence personally. Now we'll talk about what Crime Stoppers are and what their role is in society. Crime Stoppers is a civilian, non-profit charitable organization that brings together relationships between the police services of a community, the media, and the community in the fight against crime. Crime Stoppers provides citizens with a vehicle to anonymously supply the police with information about a crime or potential crime of which they have knowledge. Cash rewards are offered to people who call the program and the information that leads to an arrest. Since the program has started, there are now more than 1,700 Crime Stoppers programs worldwide in 32 countries. More than 425,000 crimes have been solved since the program's inception, and over 8 billion worth of stolen property have been seized. Now we will briefly discuss about citizen's arrest. Citizen's arrest is an arrest made by an ordinary person without a warrant. It is allowable in certain cases. It is recommended more that you should report wrongdoing to the police rather than making a citizen's arrest yourself, because police officers are equipped with proper intervention tools and trained to deal with incidents which may escalate to become violent. A few simple tips that could help when making a citizen's arrest could be: don't use any force, avoid if possible any force because that may escalate the situation. Also, call the police straight away, and when the police arrive, state the plain facts of what happened. One very important key fact is that you must own property or be in lawful possession of property or have been authorized by the owner of the person in lawful possession of the property in order to make a citizen's arrest. A citizen's arrest is a very serious and potentially dangerous undertaking. Exercise extreme caution when attempting to take a citizen's arrest. Now we'll be finally moving on to our last question. What is a jury and what are their roles and responsibilities? A jury consists of 12 ordinary citizens who are able to apply their common sense to the matter of determining the guilt or innocence of someone accused of an offense. Jurors represent diverse backgrounds, and therefore individual prejudice are likely to be neutralized. Anyone 18 years of age and older who is a Canadian citizen is eligible for jury duty, with no exceptions. For example, people convicted of serious crimes are not eligible. If you are summoned to jury duty, it is your responsibility to appear at the courthouse on time. You must take whatever arrangements that are necessary for transportation, time off work, or classes and rebooking appointments. Not showing up to jury duty can cause you to be fined or end up in jail for a few days. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video and learned something about the justice system. We will be soon releasing a part B to this video which will answer the other 4 questions that we haven't covered yet.